Now on Talking Solutions, welcoming back Emily Smith with the Nevada Blind Children's Foundation.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
I think a lot of people aren't aware about the NBCF here in Nevada and why you guys are so important to kids in our area.
Well, Nevada Blind Children's Foundation really is the only nonprofit organization that's solely focused on blind and visually impaired children in our community. When you look across the country, we're one of 7 states that doesn't have a school for the blind. So the resources that we're providing our students are really critical.
These kids, the education and the opportunities that you offer them are so important. They need special educational opportunities. They need special ways to learn and to maximize what they can do, which I believe so much in the abilities of these children. What was the line that I just saw? Visual impairment is a diagnosis, not a disability.
That's right. And that really kind of permeates everything that we do at the foundation. The statistics for our state are not that great. Of blind or visually impaired adults, 21 to 64, with no other major disabilities, statistics show that about 36.6% have a high school diploma. The same amount have actual full-time employment. It's a very low statistic. For everyone that doesn't have full-time employment, it costs our state about $1 million over their lifetime, and loss of taxes and contributions to the community. And for that individual, that's a very isolating life. When you think about what it's like to be visually impaired or blind, even the basics that we take for granted, it's a struggle, but it's a struggle that they can overcome. And I think that's where we really fit in, is to help educate parents, help give kids an advantage and give them a level playing field at the very least with their sighted peers, and participate in the things that they're doing, just having adapted. And so in that way, our kids learn how to adapt their life so that they can become independent, contributing members of our community.
Contributing is the big part. We were just saying about the percentage of people who have visual impairment, adults who have already gone past that childhood education stage. They don't have the education that they need, and they don't have the jobs that they also need. So they end up needing to rely on society to help them make it through.
Correct. And it becomes a lot easier when they turn 18 to just get a card, and then they're living off the state at that point. The options for getting them into a full-time employment, early on when I started with Nevada Blind Children's Foundation, I had interviewed a young man who had a visual impairment and really wanted to give him a job, but could only give him part-time at the time. And he had to weigh, how will that impact the money that I'm already getting versus having this part-time job? With the idea, you have a part-time job, you build a resume, you build skills, and then you move on to something else. And so we're trying to get to that much earlier now with our kids, so that it's not a question of if they will go to college, it's where will they go to college. It's not a question of will they work or will they sit at home? It's where will I work? So we start really early with our kids. In every program, they have leadership components, financial literacy components built into it. And then when they get into their teens, we offer them an opportunity to be a leader with their peers. We call it a counselor and training program. So they actually get to help run programming. And then when they turn 18, we'll offer them their first job. The idea is we can work with them to get them ready, and then we make it known that they've got a year or whatever they really need. But our goal is to get them transitioned into the community working.
And you see all kinds of potential in these kids, obviously.
We do. And we see all kinds of energy, too. We've got a young man right now who really would love to have a job at a movie theater. He certainly has the potential for that. And he's a yes man. He will do whatever we ask, whenever we ask. He wants to contribute. He wants to be useful. So we work with him on things like even putting out stale popcorn on the floor and practicing sweeping it up, how we would take tickets, the interaction with individuals and customer service, those kind of things, with the idea that when he's ready, that we can go out and approach an employer and see if we can get him placed and work with that employer to fit his needs as well.
Customized training.
Yeah.
Popcorn, how are you going to take tickets?
Kind of yummy, too.
To help him achieve his goal.
Right. It is achievable for him. It's just a matter of having somebody that has the time and the effort and the specialized training to work with them to understand what are the adaptations that we need. And there's a lot of other pieces that go with that, because there's the family involved. And if the family is also dependent on that income from the state, it's educating the family to be willing to make those changes and allow their child to have a job. There's a lot that goes into it. And so we try to really address this comprehensively with wraparound services.
We're talking with Emily Smith, the CEO for the Nevada Blind Children's Foundation. Emily, how many kids do you end up helping?
June 1st of 2018, we moved to a facility that was 3 times what our previous facility was. We had maxed out capacity there at 61 students. In our new facility, we're looking to begin offering a preschool for blind and visually impaired children. We're looking at about 40 students in that. And then our after-school programs are currently serving about 75 students annually.
Where do you get your funding?
We're all privately funded right now, so everything is donations. We do special events. We have some major donors who have been longtime friends of the organization that contribute. And this year we actually are working with the state to try to help get some special appropriations to support the preschool.
Do you think people who are not educated about visually impaired children might believe that these kids don't have the potential that they actually do have?
I think there is certainly a gap of knowledge. I myself, when I came to work here, somebody approached me about the job and I said, I don't really know much about this community. I think you probably need somebody who really does know. And in educating myself, found out that really there wasn't a whole lot more to know. They are kids just like every other kid. Many times visual impairment isn't necessarily the primary disability in the sense that they suffer from food insecurities, transportation issues, bad home life, any of the other things that many kids in our community are struggling with. So a lot of times trying to help our students, it's not just about a visual impairment, but I think for people in the community, you see that cane or you see that child and that's all that you see. You don't really understand what their potential is. And reality is if you came and visited our kids, you'd feel like they're just like every other kid.
Pretty amazing kids.
Yeah.
I believe by shining a light on things like the Nevada Blind Children's Foundation, people do understand we are more empathetic. And I think in the long run, we're all nicer to one another.
We could certainly use more of that. Even taking field trips, we took a great trip once to the Boulder City Train Museum. How would you describe that? For our kids, you can't just read about a train in a book, but to actually go out there and feel the wheels and get on the train and take a ride. At the time when we worked with them, they said, well, we don't have Braille on anything here. We're not really adapted for your kids. So we talked about what could this potential partnership look like? And they did have a program for the students from Clark County School District. They started to revise it and think about how could we make this more tactile, more hands-on. And they walked away with this really great program and our kids just had this amazing day. And at the end of the program, they said, this is so good. We're going to just change the way we do this because it makes sense for every kid. I think in a lot of ways, just having those opportunities to work together with the community and engage them, it opens it up not just for our kids, but for everybody.
Yeah, all the kids in the state of Nevada, it seems when it comes to education, are already challenged from the start because we keep coming in at the bottom. I have a positive outlook on it, but there are challenges. And so if you add into that visual impairment, throw one more challenge in their path, that's what you guys are here to help with.
Right. And like I said, our focus right now is really getting the preschool up and running because there isn't anything that offers a full day option for families. So if you look at the statistics, most families, if they still have both parents together, both of them are trying to work. If you have a child who's blind or visually impaired, a lot of families have to have one of those stay home. Now that becomes an income issue, right? So one of the things that we're working on with the preschool is to get a full day preschool up and running so parents can go back to work and we can provide wraparound services. They'll have the schooling there, they'll have therapy on site, they'll be able to do a lot of these things that parents are driving around all day taking their kids to. So when a parent comes home, they pick up their kid, they go home and they can be a family at night and then transition them into the Clark County School District and support them from there through to employment.
Well, if you had a child with a visual disability, it's not like you could say, there's a preschool right over here on the corner. They're not equipped for children with visual impairment.
Right. And even the Head Start programs, we've had a few of our students go there and we'll get a call. If they can service them, great, but they don't necessarily have the additional adaptive technologies or resources. They don't have the specialized teacher of the visually impaired. So having that all on site and be able to bring all those services will really help get our kids better prepared because they say about reading that up until third grade, they're learning to read and then they start reading to learn. Our kids have another challenge before all of that because they have to learn whatever their adaptation is going to be so that they can learn to read because it's not as simple as they just pick up a book and go, especially if they're going to be a Braille reader. There's a lot of tactile things that have to happen and sensory pieces that happen very early on. I think that we can get to this much earlier and much more efficiently and give them a better start in the school district.
The idea, Emily, of having a preschool for Nevada Blind Children's Foundation is really exciting because I think with any other kind of a disability, the younger you get the child, the better they will perform and the more they can accomplish.
Absolutely.
This is something we could really use. What steps do we need to take to help you get there?
Well, we're currently going through the licensing process right now. We have some modifications that we'll need to do to the building. And the big piece, we're working with the state right now to see if there's an option for additional funding. I think an early investment from our state now would really cut in on that $1 million per person later. And so I think it's a cost savings to them, but at the same time, we'll be up and running and ready to go. We'd love to be able to start September 1st of this year. And depending on how that works with the state, we may have to push that back a little bit, but I would say definitely within the next 1.5 to 2 years, we will have that up and running.
You're going forward.
It's going to happen one way or another. This is everything that we've been working for. It's the thing that our parents have said that they need most. And honestly, when you meet families that are in this situation, especially in those early ages, the way the structure works right now, if your child is diagnosed at, say, like 6 months or so, they would go into early intervention services, which is really an in-the-home service. How isolating is that, right? I mean, it's great that they're there and they're working with the family, but then you don't have families connected to other families to see, here's this other mom going through the same thing, but she's 5 years down the road. Here's another one who's 10, 15 years down the road. Here's this other child who has the same thing that my child does, but he's 15 now. Look at how great he's doing. Where's the hope in isolation? Part of what we do is bring these families together. And right now we do programs with them like a Dots and Tots program where it's like a parent-child program. And they get that early education piece for the kids. The parents get to understand how to work with their child in that way. But really one of the most important things that happens is the parents get to connect with each other.
So many things you offer. Emily, you talked a moment ago about events. Coming up is the Ladybug Ball, a great event that would help to fund the projects that you've got.
Helps tremendously. It is our biggest fundraiser of the year, April 13th at the Mirage. It's our 10-year anniversary, so we're having a big bash afterwards. We're going to have an after party out by the pool. Should be a great night. Tickets are available on our website, nvblindchildren.org. Entertainment, great food, a fun night, and it ends up being about 40% of our operating from the year, so very important to us.
It's a good party.
It's a tremendous party.
This is what I've always heard about the Ladybug Ball. That is a great evening.
Of course, we're always on a message, and our kids are there as ambassadors, which is a great opportunity to meet them. But I will say we have the party crowd. They definitely like to hang out and have a good time, which is nice because they're also very generous with our kids.
Good time, great cause.
Yeah.
Ladybug Ball.
April 13th.
Don't let me instill any panic in you. It's
Don't
next
worry.
Saturday.
All of the staff are panicked.
That's what they're there for, to help. Of course, Emily, we always put the links and everything on our Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with the podcast of our discussion today.
Fantastic.
You know that we always ask, as part of Talking Solutions, Emily Smith, Nevada Blind Children's Foundation, what can we do to help you?
Most important thing is get involved. Knowledge about our kids is important, understanding, and don't be afraid if you see people with a cane to go up and talk to them and help them out if they need it. The other piece specific to us would be volunteering, donating. We put that all up on our website, and there's great opportunities to get engaged with our organization, from working with the kids directly to working on a committee or just making a donation to send a kid to camp. We just encourage people to check us out and come out for a tour and meet our kids.
And we understand the long-range goal is making sure that these kids are able to go on and not be a drain on society, but a positive part of society, a contributing member.
They have so much potential. When I first started at Nevada Blind Children's Foundation, one of the first boys that I ever met there, he was about 9 at the time, and his goal was to ride the bus around, talking about, what do you want to do when you grow up? He's like, I'd just like to ride the bus. I had a conversation with his assessment teacher talking about the graduation rates and post-secondary education. I said, but how do I inspire a 9-year-old who doesn't have that dream? And I was told, well, reality is so far behind, not going to have that dream, not going to be able to graduate at 9. And I said, I understand now why we are so important, because you're giving up on kids so early, kids that don't know that they have an opportunity for a dream. And we invested 12 months. He was at every program, and in 12 months, he was on reading level. And by 18 months, he was a grade above. And he turned around by 18 months later, when you started asking, what is it you want to do when you grow up? He wanted to be a writer. I suspect that this is going to change, just like everybody else. I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was a kid. But that's the idea, that they have a dream that expands beyond riding the bus, that they are actively engaged in their community, that they have opportunities that inspire them to do great things. And I think when we inspire them, their potential is endless.
Now, I know you're busy, but if you could maybe on the side write a book about all the experiences you've had with these kids through Nevada Blind Children's Foundation. So if you could just do that in your spare time, we could all share some of these stories because they're great stories about these great kids.
The other thing that I've seen over my time, talk about how long I've been there. When I started, the boys were all real young. Now they're in their teenage years and they are teenage boys. So there's a lot of romance, a lot of I love this girl, I love that girl, and then the bad language. So like we say, blind people problems when they start brailing the bad words and think that I don't know that what they are.
You know what they are.
It's always a new thing, but it's fun like when you talk about those stories because it just reminds you that they're teenagers now, regular teenagers like everybody else. It just comes out in a different way and they're trying to get away with things in a different way. That's the part that's fun for me, is to see that they really are just like every other kid and we're dealing with the same things that everybody else is. It's just unique that they have a different opportunity to put their thing together and get out there in the world and do it.
Normal kids. I know a lot of the jobs that are out there these days, STEM education is so important. And I really have got to believe that a lot of the kids through Nevada Blind Children's Foundation also would be very strong in those areas.
It's amazing what our kids do. So we have 3 levels of Lego robotics teams from kindergarten straight through to 12th grade. They are building and programming robots and they are working together on creative solutions to interesting problems. I think the first Lego League does a great job of putting together issues for them to solve. It's been interesting to see how our kids adapt and they figure out how they're going to program their robot. And for a kid who's visually impaired and has some sight, we'll work together with a child who has no sight at all. It's been a unique team building opportunity for our kids and a great introduction to them that they can be in the STEM fields and they can have a career there.
These kids have so much potential and we can all help. Consider the Ladybug Ball next Saturday at the Mirage. We'll have the links and everything for tickets. I know in past years with Ladybug Ball, I've heard about wonderful drink creations and food creations and different silent auction items that can all raise money for NBCF.
We have some amazing things this year. We're honoring Paul Stoll from City National Bank, and Terry Fader is going to be performing for us at the event. I think I saw some live auction items that included some VGK stuff, signed Flurry jersey, and I think a stick from last year. And there's some great things there for people who like to bid and would love to have them there.
Even more reasons to go to the Ladybug Ball next Saturday. Details, links, and everything on the Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with the podcast of our discussion today. Emily Smith, CEO of the Nevada Blind Children's Foundation. Am I forgetting anything?
We do so much at the organization. We kind of are a catch-all for our kids from birth to age 22. And so I would just say for our community, the biggest thing that we can do is educate our community on the needs of our kids. Check us out and come out for a tour. We'd love to have the community involved.
Emily Smith, thank you so much for taking time to join us and update us on what's going on with the Nevada Blind Children's Foundation on Talking Solutions.
Thanks so much, Terry.